As the sun sets behind the towering peaks of Yellowstone National Park, a hushed whisper spreads through the campground. The park ranger has just made a shocking announcement. Something big has happened deep within the park's mysterious wilderness, and no one knows what it could be. Hearts race and minds buzz with speculation as the ranger's words echo ominously through the trees, leaving campers wondering if they should stay and find out the truth or flee before it's too late. Is the Yellowstone supervolcano truly due for an eruption? Beneath Yellowstone National Park, a vast region of spectacular wilderness visited by around 3 million people annually, lurks one of the largest volcanoes in the world. The Yellowstone caldera, the cauldron-like basin at the summit of the volcano, is so colossal that it is often called a supervolcano, which, according to the Natural History Museum in London, means it has the capacity to produce a magnitude 8 eruption on the volcanic explosivity index, discharging more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. To put that into perspective, the 1991 eruption of Pinatubo in the Philippines, arguably the most powerful volcanic eruption in living memory, was rated a 6 on the volcanic explosivity index, making it, according to the Natural History Museum, around 100 times smaller than the benchmark for a supervolcano. So, should we be worried? Will Yellowstone erupt anytime soon? Is Yellowstone due for an eruption? Media reports have often claimed that Yellowstone is due to erupt. They assert that the impending eruption of the supervolcano is inevitable due to the fact that its most recent eruption occurred 70,000 years ago. But that's not how volcanoes work. This is perhaps the most common misconception about Yellowstone and about volcanoes in general. Volcanoes don't work on timelines. Michael Poland, a geophysicist and the scientist in charge at Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, told Live Science in an email. They erupt when there is enough eruptible magma beneath the surface and pressure to cause that magma to ascend. Neither condition is in place at Yellowstone right now, he added. It's all about that magma supply. Cut that off and the volcano won't erupt. Many volcanoes go through cycles of activity and inactivity, Poland said. Most of the time, the activity of a volcano is a direct result of the supply of magma that it has available. Some volcanoes do seem to have regular eruptions, but this is because the magma supply is relatively constant. Think Kilauea in Hawaii or Stromboli in Italy, Poland said. So where does the idea of Yellowstone being overdue for an eruption come from then? I suspect the overdue idea comes from the concept of earthquakes, Poland said. Earthquakes happen as stress accumulates on faults, and in many places, this stress accumulates at relatively constant rates due to, for example, plate motion. That being the case, you might expect earthquakes to occur at somewhat regular intervals. It is, of course, more complicated than that. There are many variables at play, but for that reason, it makes more sense to say that a fault is overdue for an earthquake. Poland also remarked that supervolcanoes, a world he thinks fairly vulgar and sensationalist, are no more or less temperamental than regular volcanoes. So how do experts keep an eye on Yellowstone's subterranean activity so that, in the case of a major volcanic eruption, warnings can be given? Yellowstone is very well monitored by a variety of techniques, Poland said. It is covered in terms of seismicity and ground deformation. We track the temperatures of some thermal features, although this is not an indicator of volcanic activity, but rather of the behavior of specific hydrothermal areas. We look to overall thermal emissions from space, collect gas and water to assess chemistry over time, and track stream, river flow, and chemistry. So what might indicate that a massive eruption is imminent? Having thousands of earthquakes in a short period of time, with many felt events, would be noteworthy as long as it was not an aftershock sequence from a tectonic event, Poland said. This seismicity would need to be coupled with really extreme ground deformation, tens of centimeters over the same short period, park-wide changes in geyser activity and thermal gas emissions, said the researcher. The ground rises and falls normally by 2 to 3 centimeters every year, and there are typically 2,000 quakes annually in the area, so it would have to rise far beyond these normal background levels. While Yellowstone is relatively stable right now and has not displayed any unusual seismic activity lately, if it were to erupt, the consequences could be extreme. Volcanologists have suggested that the ramification they are most concerned about is wind-flung ash, which might end up blanket a surrounding region 500 miles broad in more than 4 inches of ash. This could, experts predict, result in the short-term destruction of Midwest agriculture and would leave scores of watercourses clogged. According to the U.S. Department of the Interior, the surrounding states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming that are closest to Yellowstone would be affected by pyroclastic flows, while other places in the U.S. would be impacted by falling ash. Poland added that the effects would also be felt beyond the United States borders. If there were a very large explosive eruption, it could impact the global climate by emitting ash and gas into the stratosphere, which could block sunlight and lower global temperatures by a few degrees for a few years, Poland explained. Research published in the journal Science in December 2022 found that the Yellowstone caldera holds more liquid molten rock than previously estimated. Should we be concerned about this discovery in light of the fact that volcanoes only tend to erupt when there is an abundant supply of magma readily available? What would happen if Yellowstone's supervolcano erupted? Are we ready for a mega blast from the supervolcano in Yellowstone National Park? Now hold tight, because we are going to tell you what's going to happen. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the U.S. It is home to a diverse array of wildlife, geothermal features, and breathtaking landscapes. However, it is also home to a supervolcano, which is a type of volcano that is capable of producing an eruption with a volcanic explosivity index of 8, which is the highest possible rating. So what would happen if Yellowstone's supervolcano were to erupt? To answer this question, it is important to understand what a supervolcano is and how it differs from a regular volcano. A supervolcano is a volcano that has produced a volcanic eruption of at least 240 cubic miles of magma. By comparison, the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980 produced only 0.25 cubic miles of magma. Yellowstone's supervolcano is estimated to have produced 3 super eruptions in the past, the most recent of which occurred around 640,000 years ago. If Yellowstone's supervolcano were to erupt, the consequences would be catastrophic. The eruption would likely produce a massive ash cloud that could cover much of the U.S., causing widespread destruction and disruption. The ash would also likely have a significant impact on the global climate, potentially causing a drop in global temperatures and affecting agriculture production. The immediate impact of the eruption would be felt within a few hundred miles of the volcano. The eruption would produce a pyroclastic flow, which is a mixture of hot gases and volcanic ash that can travel at speeds of up to 450 miles per hour. The pyroclastic flow would incinerate everything in its path, causing widespread destruction and death. In addition to the pyroclastic flow, the eruption would produce a massive ash cloud that would be carried by the wind across the continent. The ash would likely be several feet deep in some areas, making it difficult or impossible to travel or even breathe. The ash would also pose a significant threat to agriculture, potentially causing crop failures and food shortages. The impact of the eruption would not be limited to the U.S. The ash cloud would likely have a significant impact on global climate, potentially causing a drop in global temperatures and affecting agriculture production around the world. The eruption could also produce acid rain, which would further damage crops and ecosystems. The long-term impact of the eruption would be significant. The ash would likely remain in the atmosphere for years, blocking out the sun and causing a drop in global temperatures. This could lead to a volcanic winter similar to the one that followed the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815, which caused widespread famine and death. The eruption could also trigger a series of secondary events, such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and landslides. These events could cause further destruction and loss of life, potentially affecting areas far from the volcano itself. In summary, the eruption of Yellowstone supervolcano would be a catastrophic event with far-reaching consequences. The immediate impact would be felt within a few hundred miles of the volcano, but the long-term impact could be felt around the world. The eruption would produce a massive ash cloud that could cover much of the U.S., causing widespread destruction and disruption. The ash would also likely have a significant impact on the global climate, potentially causing a drop in global temperatures and affecting agriculture production. While the likelihood of such an event occurring in the near future is low, it is important to be aware of the potential consequences and to have plans in place to respond if necessary. The UFO. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most visited national parks in the world due to its picturesque landscapes, abundant wildlife, and unique geothermal features. The park is also one of the oldest national parks in the U.S. However, it is also a location that has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories over the years. From hidden government research facilities to secret alien bases, there have been countless claims made about what goes on behind the scenes in Yellowstone. One recent incident that has caught the attention of conspiracy theorists is the alleged sighting of a UFO over the Yellowstone volcano. There have been reports that a bright object in the shape of a disc was seen hovering above the caldera of the volcano, which has sparked a lot of speculation about what the object could be and what it could possibly mean. For those who believe in conspiracy theories, the sighting of a UFO over Yellowstone is not surprising. There is a widespread conspiracy theory that the government is concealing something sinister within the park, and many people think that this incident is just one more piece of evidence that proves their point. One popular theory is that the government is hiding a secret research facility within the park. According to this theory, the facility is used to conduct experiments and research that are deemed too dangerous or controversial to be conducted elsewhere. The UFO sighting is seen as evidence that the government is testing advanced technology in the area, possibly related to weapons development or espionage. Others believe that the UFO is a sign that there is an alien presence in the park. Some people believe that the government has established communication with extraterrestrial beings and that they are collaborating with these beings on a top-secret endeavor. It is believed that the spotting of the UFO over Yellowstone National Park is a sign that this project is making progress and that we will likely make contact with extraterrestrial civilizations in the near future. Of course, these claims are purely speculative and have no basis in fact. There is no evidence to suggest that the government is conducting secret experiments or that there is an alien presence in Yellowstone National Park. In reality, a sighting of a UFO over Yellowstone could have a much more mundane explanation. It could be a natural phenomenon, such as a meteor or a weather balloon. It could also be a misidentified aircraft or drone. Alternatively, it could be a deliberate hoax or a prank. It is not uncommon for individuals to create fake UFO sightings as a way of garnering attention or making a point. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the rumors and conspiracy theories surrounding the Yellowstone UFO sighting continue to circulate. For some, these stories are simply a form of entertainment, a way of escaping from the mundane realities of everyday life. For others, they are a way of questioning authority and challenging the current quo. Alright, that's pretty much it for this video. Subscribe for more and we'll see you in the next video.